Today, I'm really pleased to be joined by Keith Brown, who is CEO of Wealth Holdings. We'll be talking today about how the business provides opportunities for IFA practices, and that's to embark on the next stage of their development. And that could be about selling their practice, it could be about an acquisition, or it could be about implementing a succession plan. Keith, hello and welcome to IFA Magazine.
Hi Sue, thanks very much. It's nice to be here.
So without further ado then, let's just get straight into some questions.
Okay.
To start with then, Keith, can you tell us a bit about Wealth Holdings and maybe also how you became CEO?
Okay, yeah, of course, thank you. A long journey really. I guess I started in financial services back in 1990 at Commercial Union Financial Services, like many people in direct sales forces back then, and did about 5 years there before I became an IFA, and then had my own practice as an IFA from sort of 1997 onwards, and gradually as your career progresses, I went from having a small practice to meeting someone else and gradually moving on to a larger practice where I was the managing director there. And then we did a few acquisitions, did some integrations, some successful, some less so. But during that period, I met a guy called Andrew Smith, who's now our chairman, around 2008. And Andrew eventually became one of the founders of one of the large consolidators in Succession Advisory Services in 2009. 2010, Andrew asked me to go and work with him there at Succession. So I spent nearly 10 years at Succession and seeing the other side of the fence really as a consolidator there. Got a huge amount of experience, met some great people and worked with some fantastic businesses there. And having left there nearly 3 years ago, Andrew and I had always kept in touch. We talked about working together again. And we started to look at some various other opportunities. We were doing some consultancy work in some different areas, all in financial services. And then we got asked by a client if we could help them put together something in the M&A space. They had a lot of clients, some of whom were interested in acquiring, and some of whom were interested in selling and potentially retiring, or at least looking at their succession plans, as you said, and wondering what that route looked like and how did they need to prepare. What did they need to do in order to get in the right shape, in a good shape, in order to be attractive? So we started to work on that, and that developed into a project of not only us consulting with them and helping them, but actually would we put a team together to actually deliver that project for them. So that's really where Wealth Holdings as an M&A business came from. We knew some fantastic people. Debbie Dry, who I work with, one of our co-directors, has been involved in over 250 acquisitions in her career, and helping firms to integrate, which is really key to all of the process and successful outcomes. And we thought from all of our experience, we really knew what a good outcome looked like, and that was really the key driver for us. If we could focus entirely on a good outcome for all of the key parties, so that's the buyer, it's the seller, it's the clients, and that would be successful for everybody, then we could build a successful business on that basis. So that was really how we got to where we got to, having been asked to develop that particular project, putting a team together for that, and then thinking, actually, we think we can do something here that's going to help the market, going to have a good place in the market, and can deliver some really good outcomes for people. So that was really where we got to.
That's good. That's interesting. So let's get into the detail a little bit now then and talk more about mergers and acquisitions, as you've just mentioned. So why was it specifically that you expanded into mergers and acquisitions as a business?
Yeah, when the opportunity arose to start the consultancy with our client, we looked at the market and just thought that, as I said earlier, that we'd seen from our own experience, not every deal is successful. And they're not all successful. If you think about, we started to break down what is it? What are the constituent parts? What's everyone looking to achieve in this process? So acquirers, quite understandably, are looking to, they're parting with money, and ultimately they want to grow the assets under management. They often want to grow the number of advisors and staff that they've got. They want to grow their income, and inevitably they're a business, they want to grow their profit line. So that's what they're looking for from the deal. What does a seller want? Well, seller needs are actually quite complicated in that they might want to take their lifetime's work and capitalise that value, but some of them want to stay on. They're not quite ready to retire just yet. But the work involved in running an IFA practice is substantial, and not all of it is spent doing the thing that most planners really love doing, which is talking to their clients. That's the bit people really enjoy. No one's quite so excited about doing regulatory returns or compliance and administration and some of the other things that come with it. But most of us end up doing that, and having been there myself and being a planner who ended up running a business, and you spend more time running the business and dealing with the regulator and PI renewals and Gabrielle returns than you do talking to clients. So some people are looking at that journey as part of their succession plan, that exit route. But it's quite complex in the other thing that all sellers tell us whenever we speak to sellers over the last 12, 13 years of talking to them, they all want their clients looked after. The clients have become friends in many cases. The clients have provided them with a good living for 10, 15, 20 years. The clients still need a level of service that they've become used to. So we took the view that if we could look after all of those people, including the clients, and I've had a phrase that I've used many years over time, but there's only £1 comes into the front door of an IFA business, and it's the client's pound. That money comes in, they invest it in an ISA or a pension, however it's invested, they're paying a premium for something. And that pound is then shared between us, and that's how we all earn a living. And we need to look after that pound. The buyer wants that pound. They've paid, often on a recurring multiple, a value for that pound. They want something for it. The seller wants that pound to be sustainable, because that's how they get remunerated over a period of time. And ultimately, of course, it's the client's pound, and we need to look after that as well. So we really set about just saying, well, if we could, from our experience, on both sides of the fence, as IFAs, we've all been IFAs, everyone involved in Wealth Holdings has at some point been practicing and been in practice. And if we could then look at that and say, actually, if that was the core focus of what we do, and we understand the complex needs along the way and the thousands of things that form that process, then from that experience and that knowledge, actually, we thought we could bring something to the market that people would appreciate. And that's what we're trying to do at the moment.
That's really good. So no, it sounds as if it's focused in just the right way for both sides of the equation. So given that huge experience that you've got as an IFA, as a business owner, and as a consolidator with succession and so on, when it comes to supporting advisor businesses then in the way that you do, what does good look like if you were trying to really capture that?
Yeah, it's for us, a lot of it is getting the right match in the first place. So as I said earlier, you can go to the market and you can see, we can all see in the press, you can carry stories that so-and-so has got X money from a private equity to grow and expand and consolidate. And we all can see the statistics in the market that at any given time, maybe 20% of the market are thinking about selling and retiring at some point. And that's just the demographics of the industry. When, I read recently that the average IFA was 58, the average owner of an IFA practice was 62. So inevitably, there's always a constituent of the demographic that's thinking about at some point retiring. Start to break it down, it really then becomes really detailed, Sue, in terms of what does that really mean. So if you want to look after that client and how that client's been looked after, for example, very simple things like the investment proposition. What has the client been working with the financial advisor on for the last 10 or 15 years since they've been a client, and what's the experience going to be afterwards if that planner is going to retire in the next year or two, and is that aligned? So are those interests aligned? The same with the charges, you know, the band of charges that we use, different ways of charging, different ways of servicing clients, and digital servicing coming in as well. So we look at all of that. We go into a great deal of detail on both sides. So that when we're talking to a client who wants to buy, wants to acquire, we spend an awful lot of time really understanding from them, where are their red lines, what's important to them, not just geographically and size, what are they looking to acquire and grow to, but actually what does integration look like? What does that journey look like for the planner, for the staff, for the clients? What are their expectations? And equally, when we engage with someone who wants to sell, we're asking them the same questions really. What do you do currently, and what is the expectation afterwards? What do you want to do? What do you want out of this deal? Do you want to stay for 2 or 3 years and gradually wind down and hand clients over? Do you want to retire and leave tomorrow and go and sit on the beach somewhere nice? You know, all of those are perfectly reasonable expectations, but it's understanding it. And then it's about finding the right match. It's about taking that detailed, in-depth analysis that we've done, really that fact finding that we'd all be familiar with, asking those key questions and matching them together and trying, therefore, to only put people in front of people at a point when we really do think there's real value in this, and that everyone can get out of it what they want out of it, including the client, including obviously the seller, and including the acquiring firm. So that it's that we try to bring to the table, and just be very open and honest with people, and just say, look, this is what we do. This is the process we go through. There's quite a lot of work to engage in. Everyone has to commit time and effort to it. It's not easy. It's not quick. We really do want to understand it, so that when we do go forward and have meetings and make introductions, that they're actually the right introductions, we think, as best as we can at the right time. And then it's around transition. We really do focus a lot on what is that transition plan. Having run those ourselves and integrated firms ourselves, you know, there are different ways of buying firms, and I won't get into technical details today around share purchase and asset purchase. That's a whole subject we could talk about. But depending on what type of deal and what structure you're doing, and again, that will come down to our due diligence on both sides. You know, what has to happen, you know. And I always remember, you know, having a list. We used to run a project plan and a list, and thinking, oh, at some point we've got to change all the signage on the firm because we were going to rebrand. At some point, we have to remember that the franking machine has got a logo in it, and you've got to get a new logo for the franking machine because it's changed. It's one of the endless list of little things that need to happen, as well as all the big things that need to happen, you know, and therefore it's that really forms the part of, and we're very keen to work with parties to say, let's make sure that not only do we understand all of these things, that actually we've got a plan. So we might be involved in a transaction for 2 years, because there might be a 2-year transition plan. It isn't just an introduction and get on with it. It's let's work through, let's understand what the deal is going to be, and what needs to support that deal. What supports that deal actually happening and being successful is the transition plan, and along the way, everyone having their part to play in it, and us helping both parties and facilitating calls and meetings on Zoom and Teams, and to say, you know, let's go through all of those steps, let's plan it all out, and let's make sure we're there with our clients all the way through that journey to make sure what we said earlier, which is we want a good outcome, and the good outcome comes from hitting all those triggers along that journey. So that was how we set out at the business at the beginning, to say, well, if you break down what does a good outcome look like, what do you need to do in order to deliver it? And if you're going to really deliver it, then you need to be part of that journey And they say it could be a year, a 2-year transition plan. And we work with our clients all the way through that and help them get that outcome, hopefully.
And it's such an important part, isn't it, of just the process of running a business. And this is something that people tend to only ever sell their business once. And so they would want to get it right. And as you've explained, the due diligence process.
It is. It's the due diligence. And it's a very emotional thing as well. You know, we can never forget, you know, we may have done this 250 times, but we try never to forget that the person selling is probably only ever going to do it once. And it is the culmination of their life's work. And it does matter. And you know, all of these things matter, and the clients have become friends, and that they do matter immensely. You know, and everyone wants a good outcome. And if you're going to bump into them in the golf club in a year's time, you want to know that they're still happy and still being looked after, as well as the emotional attachment of the, you know, it's easy to say to business, but actually a lot has gone into building this business. You know, people work incredibly hard, long hours to get to that point over a period of time, and letting go of that isn't always easy, and letting it go to the right person really matters. So, you know, it is about a lot of meetings are about just getting to know each other. Spend some time talking. You can do the numbers, you can do the paperwork, but actually getting a real feel for each other. You know, are you the right person to work with and to take my clients on? That's a large part of what we do as well. You know, making those introductions.
Well, that's great, Keith. And I think you've given us a really clear picture today about the way that you work and the things that are important. And hopefully those people watching today will be able to think about that. And if they're in a situation where they are contemplating making a change, then they know where to come, obviously. So thank you very much for talking to us today. It's been great to meet you, and hopefully we shall chat again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.